You are listening to PastThink.com audiobook. Please like and subscribe, thank you. Chapter 108. Sima Yi dies and Sun Quan dies. Sun Jun executes a treacherous plot at a banquet. Sima Shi loses countless men to the arrow machines, but Jiang Wei loses tens of thousands in his failed invasion. He retreats to Guanzhong, and Sima Shi and the other Wei commanders return to Luoyang. In late summer of AD 251, Sima Yi falls seriously ill in Wei. Dying, he passes on his authority to his two sons, Sima Shi and Sima Zhao. In Wu, also in late summer that year, a storm blows over the tall trees around the shrine of the Sun family, and the shock of this brings on a serious illness for Sun Quan. 6 months later, in early AD 252, he dies. He had reigned for 24 years and was 71 years old. A poet has said of him, "This blue-eyed, red-bearded hero inspired all who served him. 24 years he ruled without challenge. A coiled dragon, a tiger below the mighty river." By now most of the great men of the kingdom, Lu Sun, Zhuge Jin and others, have died. It is Zhuge Jin's son, Zhuge Ke, who now holds power and enthrones the heir apparent Sun Liang as emperor. But Zhuge Ke is a foolish and ambitious man. Soon he has taken control of the whole court and country, and is living a life of extravagance. Using his power, he has any who oppose him killed and brings a chill of fear over the whole land. News of the death of Sun Quan inspires in Sima Shi a desire to invade Wu. Despite being advised that this would be a foolish move, he insists. He marches south, and in response Zhuge Ke goes north to the border. The Wu troops, through various plots and schemes, inflict terrible losses on the Wei army, forcing them to retreat. This in turn inspires in Zhuge Ke the desire to invade Wei in revenge. Even though omens of bad fortune appear before him, so intent is he on a victory that he dismisses them. He even writes to the Shu ruler and Jiang Wei suggesting they join him in this war. It is a disaster. The Wu army fail to capture anywhere, and when they besiege Xinqiang they are outwitted by its governor. Zhuge Ke himself is wounded by an arrow. The summer heat, despair and bad management by their leaders lead many of the Wu soldiers to desert, and they slip away back home. Illness makes the rest as good as useless, and so the army retreat. Zhuge Ke is so embarrassed by his failures that he hides at home, faking illness. Resentment against Zhuge Ke and his abuse of power leads some members of the Sun family to plot against him. Sun Jun petitions the emperor for permission to execute Zhuge Ke. They plot to invite him to a banquet, and at a signal from the emperor, who has long wished to rid himself of Zhuge Ke, they will kill him. Meanwhile Zhuge Ke has experienced many strange events and phenomena. Finding a man wearing mourning clothes wandering lost in his house, he executes not just him, but the guards, who swear that they never saw anyone enter. That night the main beam of the house cracks in two, and, when he gets up to see what is happening, Zhuge Ke sees the man in mourning, and the guards carrying their heads under their arms. The ghosts shout at him, and he collapses in terror. The next morning, he tries to wash, but the water smells of blood no matter how often the maids change it. Other signs show that all is not well for Zhuge Ke, and although he sets out for the banquet his courage fails him, and he turns around. But he is then met by two of the officials, who persuade him to come to the banquet. At the crucial moment during the banquet Sun Jun shouts, "The Son of Heaven has ordered the execution of a traitor," and with one swipe of his sword he takes off Zhuge Ke's head. His brother Zhang Yu tries to defend himself, but he too is slain. Their bodies are wrapped in reed mats and thrown into a pauper's burial place, unmarked, outside the city. Zhuge Ke's wife is at home when suddenly a maid covered in blood bursts in. The woman's face shows terrible anger. Grinding her teeth, she runs at a pillar and smashes her head against it, crying, "I am Zhuge Ke, murdered by that traitor Sun Jun." Horribly aware of the threat that this means to her and her family, she gathers them together, and their wailing fills the air. Very soon after, soldiers burst in and take them to the market square, where they kill every one of them. It is autumn AD 253. From that day on, power is given by the emperor to Sun Jun. In Chengdu, the letter from Zhuge Ke has arrived suggesting an alliance of warfare against Wei. In response, and without knowing what has befallen Zhuge Ke, Jiang Wei mobilizes the army and sets out for the north. Will this fare any better than previous attempts? Let's find out.